Selamat Sejahtera dan Selamat Hari Merdeka. So Poops, I think we're coming into this Hari Merdeka 2025 in a weird time, what with flag dramas, bullying, protests left, right, front and center in this age of
no justice, no Merdeka.
Which then raises an interesting question. What even is Merdeka really? I mean, if we really wanted to, we could probably go back to that old picture of Tunku Abdul Rahman, talk about negotiations for independence and all that stuff, but I want to go first principles, so let's talk about the meaning of the word. Right here on Google, it says, Merdeka means independence or freedom, and it originates from the Sanskrit word Mahardika, which originally meant rich, prosperous, or powerful. Wow. Yeah, I don't know how rich, independent, or powerful Malaysia is at this point with over R1 trillion in national debt, and also questions about how viable the place is going to be at the moment, but that's also why I prefer the English term independent, which I think has a much more neutral meaning, which is basically free from outside control, not subject to another's authority. You know, I feel like that captures the idea of Merdeka far more than any idea that somehow, just because we've reached Merdeka, we're going to become rich, powerful, successful and everything. Because Merdeka literally just means that you can do whatever it is that you want. You can be who you want to be. Now, something to note here. Just because you can choose who you want to be doesn't mean that things are going to be automatically amazing for you. It doesn't mean that you're automatically going to become rich. You're going to be like Scrooge McDuck swimming in piles of gold, because it's not how it works. In order to become successful, you still need to do what you logically require to become successful. It doesn't change just because suddenly now you are so-called independent. But then there's also a question of who is you. See, whenever people talk about how Malaysia sudah merdeka and what Malaysia should do, there's always a question, right? Like, who are you talking about when you say the word Malaysia? When you say Malaysia should melonjak ke persada antara bangsa, are you talking about the entire country? Are you trying to say, I want to melonjak ke hadapan in this specific way, and I want to say that every single Malaysian is joining me on this journey? Because you can't really do that. In Malaysia, I think that this is an especially big problem because politicians in our country, they like to use the word we Malaysians in a very deceptive way. We Malaysians like Pakistan, we Malaysians like China, yada yada yada. False. Each one of us, we can only really speak for ourselves, right? In terms of our vision of what we want this country to be. And maybe if we are convincing enough, then people will follow along. In this country, we have many different kinds of visions. Like, you have the Walauns with their teh tarik water, sumbang mahram, and drugs spewing out their racism. Undi pas masuk syurga tanpa pas siapalah kita. But you also have the penunggang benderas who think that they can discriminate against others while using the flag as an excuse in order to so-called unite people while actually bullying them. But then you also have what DAP and PKR offer, which is basically secular multiracial politics that is at very least not based on this race and religion nonsense which so many people in this country seem to enjoy. See, the thing is though, when any one of these groups of people say we Malaysians, it is actually a lie because their aspirations, their hopes are not shared by the rest of Malaysia. So no, we Malaysians doesn't mean playing some weird decolonization drama, terpaling decolonize while trying to rename flowers. It also doesn't mean having an excuse to say sebab kenapa gagal BI sebab bukan British dik. Basically, you don't get to represent all Malaysians sebab merdeka, maka kami haruslah ada jati diri. Because your jati diri is not the same as my jati diri, and you shouldn't pretend that we share one. I mean, if your jati diri is choosing not to learn English because you're too dumb to learn the vocabulary and the grammar, I don't think that's very much jati diri, is it? I mean, like, if you're going to go out there and start complaining about how your religion somehow cannot be the basis of all law and government, do you think I'm going to agree? No, of course I'm not going to agree. Neither is any other right-thinking Malaysian who thinks that this country is actually a place where you're supposed to be able to invest and live right here. Although, of course, maybe in time, then people will abandon the thing that you're trying to create and eventually leave you with hyperinflation and starving children. But that's a good thing about Merdeka though, and it is this idea actually that nobody can really tell you what to do. Yes, we have laws, yes, we have policies and everything like that, but the fact is that as a country that has this freedom and that is a sovereign state, we have the ability actually to decide where we're going to go.
And of course, you bear the responsibility for how things turn out as well.
Of course, you can't control every single thing that happens in the country, but as a citizen of the country, I think that you can actually go out there and then talk about what your vision is, like what you actually want for this country. But coming back to this no justice, no Merdeka thing, I guess that this means that if you agree that bullies should be neutralized, schools shouldn't be protecting teachers, then by right, you as a Malaysian citizen and somebody who votes in this country should have the right to decide that you don't want this, to complain, to advocate, to use your freedom of speech in an intelligent way, to shape the future direction of this country with your own unique voice. And at the end of the day, to keep pushing the country towards something that you consider to be better, even if that means selling the best pasar bor or roti canai, or just becoming the best damn Rubik's Cuber in the entire world. If in your mind, Merdeka means that you have the entire generation of Malaysia bangkit and have one voice, one ideal, and one vision for the entire country, I would love to believe that that is possible. And I think that comes from understanding like what's really common to every one of us, and then trying to build upon that to just create a better life for every single citizen in this country. But of course, some people are just very tied to their old way of doing things, to the point that they can't imagine abandoning that and then building something new together. That wasn't so much of an issue in Singapore, whereby they adopted English as the language of business and education because it was neutral, right? Like, you don't have a situation where Malays speak Malay, Chinese speak Chinese, and Indians speak Tamil, or whatever language it is that they happen to speak. But instead, you have an entire population all trying to learn this English thing and kind of connecting in that way, singing national songs together, sharing in these collective memories, and becoming one united people. But at the same time, I could be wrong though, because it seems the Zara issue has really connected more of us on a much greater scale than I think pretty much any other issue of identity, economy, or anything else out there. Because it's about like the life and the death of this little girl under horrible circumstances, which we understand that we don't want, that is unacceptable in the Malaysia that we want to build, because we know we can do better in this day and age. Well, that's something to build on. I have no idea how that's going to affect things in the days to come. I've heard actually from people that people are considering boycotting the Sabah elections because of the Zara issue, not just Merdeka. So I think there's going to be a bit of a knock-on effect right there. But for now, whether you're celebrating Merdeka today, protesting, or listening to No Justice, No Merdeka on full blast, what does Merdeka mean to you, Sapoops? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I hope that you'll enjoy thinking about what Merdeka means to you. I wish you either a happy Merdeka 2025, Selamat Hari Kebangsaan, or No Justice, No Merdeka. That's all I have to say about that, and bye.